back in the game.
Back in the
So
game.
it's
What does that
the
mean?
what
What
does
does
it
that
mean?
mean? Well, so first of all, let's establish. I want to establish titles here. So obviously, I'm the only Todd here, so we're good there. Are we going Dolan Bowdridge? Is that what we're gonna do? So that way we know who we're
Sounds good.
talking to. Are
Yeah,
you good with that? All right. Then
yeah,
we'll start to develop nicknames as we get through these different podcasts, different
exactly.
episodes. Dolan could turn into like Dolo, and B Drow, B Dog. So back in the game, what is that? Back in the game, that's such a, I wouldn't say it's a generalized term, but I think we know what we're trying to do here. But back in the game, Dolan, what does that mean to you, buddy? What's that all about?
Back in the game, I kind of forget who said it first, but I know we came up with it at
It
that
was,
restaurant
yeah.
when we went out to eat, and I forget who said it, and it kind of clicked with me when it was like that could mean anything. Like it could mean like being injured, coming back in like an actual game, but it's really like the big picture, like the game of life. Like it's you can always come back. Like people have come back from rock bottom so many times, and
Yeah.
I like literally I've been going over in my head the past few weeks, the past couple months, but definitely the past few days, everything has really come together, and this being one of them. That I
Hmm.
feel like without knowing or seeing that something like this could happen, or I feel like I had a vision of something like this happening and Chirping Zebras happening, which is the other podcast I'm a part of because I'm just trying to spread myself as thin as possible and just make
Hey,
everyone sick of me.
flood the market,
um,
brother. Flood the market.
yeah. But I like everything that's going for me now, and I think a lot of people don't realize like the hell that I was living in for the past 2 years. Like people see me on social media with the Bruins, or they see me on social media with Jimmy Fallon or Conan or like whatever's going I'm doing. Like I
Hmm.
feel like it's easy to think that like you're the only one that's going through something, and
Sure.
it's so easy to be like I'm out, I'm lost, I don't know how I'm going to come back from this. And I had that so many times in the past 2, 3, maybe 5 years, but definitely in the past 2 years, going through a divorce and quitting drinking, and I was on AAF, and then that got sold, and it was 2 weeks before my own show was supposed to debut, and I dedicated 10 years minus 1 year with WEI covering the Bruins, but we don't need to talk about that. And, like, just everything I knew, and, I got married, we were gonna try and start looking for a house and stuff. It was like everything was working the way it was supposed to be working. Now I'm divorced, WAF doesn't exist, and, like, I'm moving back home with my parents, and it was just, like, a whole bunch of things where I was just like, "I thought I was there, and I lost everything."
Hmm.
And COVID happened, like, 2 weeks after AAF. It was just everything seemed to disappear, and for a while, the past 2 years, it kind of felt like life was a little bit like I felt like the world was replaced with something that looked and felt like home, but it wasn't home. Like, it was like everything was replaced with exact replicas, and I was like, "This used to be the world. It's not anymore." And
Yeah.
just in the past few months and in the past, like, year, and I keep saying the past few weeks because it's really hit me in the past few weeks that I'm like, "I can't believe not only did I get all of that back, and I got it back after being down even lower, and it came back even better." And I was
Yeah.
like, that's a perfect name for the podcast because that's literally what I feel like, that I'm back in the game, and I can't believe
Right.
I'm back in the game.
It's funny hearing you say that, and then I always when it with myself personally, I feel like if I'm going through like my ebb and flow and I'm on the downward end of it, what motivates me is I go, okay, well, enough shitty things have been happening. There's bound to be something good that's going to come along. But to circle back, and luckily we have the edit button. So if I say something that you don't want on but I remember it wasn't the first time that I met you, Dolan, but I remember it was the first time I heard you stand up, and I'm at a a comedy club up in North Andover, and you got up and listen, you made me laugh. I mean, that it takes a lot to make me laugh. I love to laugh, but I one of my favorite places to be is a comedy club or listen to comedians or whatever that is. And but it was interesting because a little bit there that night, and then a little bit after that too, more after you were telling me how much um, uh, alcohol used to help you, or if I get this right, but you were talking basically what I got out of it is how nervous and anxiety filled you were during your set. And I was like, that makes no sense to me because I saw none of that.
I
So
remember
it's
I
just really
forgot all
it's
about
really
that. That's
well, it's funny because I think as whether we're entertainers, leaders, um, parents, whatever that role is, you wear this face, and so I think the more that I interact with people and find out what their story is, and it's like, I walk out onto the ice and I'm absolutely shitting my pants. But everybody's like, "Man, you do that," and you're just like, and I laugh because I go, if people actually knew what was going on in my head, it wouldn't make any sense. And it's funny. So I guess I can get all over the place, but it's funny because even the most confident looking or acting of people that I see, I automatically think to myself, I don't know, I'm not buying it. There's got to be something inside, like I
that's
just
so
can't
funny.
believe
I'm the
that
same way.
somebody is, I just can't. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying like, I'm
No.
calling anybody, calling anybody out, but I think it's that. But also on the flip side, someone asked me today when I performed, they said, "You still get nervous?" I said, "Every time." I said, "Every time is the first time for me." But I think I need that, and I think that if I'm not nervous, if I'm not full of anxiety, if I'm not going crazy in my head, then it's time for me to walk away because I've lost that appreciation and respect for what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I don't
that's
know.
something that scared me. What you said, like, I've gotten to a place where, yeah, I still get nervous, like, before going on stage and performing and stuff, but I've realized, and I don't know if it's time or if it's just because of the things that have happened to me over the past few years where I'm like, as long as my daughter is happy and healthy, nothing else really scares me that much. But what did scare me is, like, now, like, I've been getting busy doing stand-up again, and that was my return. The night
Mm,
that you were there at that comedy club, at that, I think we were doing the Zebras taping, and then we had did the stand-up after. That night, I felt so comfortable on stage, but even though I was feeling that anxiety, it felt so good because I remembered the anxiety. Like, when you're drinking to, like, push that stuff down, like,
yeah.
the anxiety didn't get any better because I was pushing it down and numbing it, and I wasn't dealing with it and using it, and I
Hmm.
feel like since that night, like, sure, I still get nervous, but I am more comfortable on stage now than I have ever been in the past 15 years, and I keep telling people since that night, I feel like it saved me or, like, changed me a little bit more because this is the first time that I've been having fun doing stand-up, and I feel like I'm actually, like, doing it now, and I'm not, like, before it was a little bit like I wanted to do it, but I was running away from it because that was the alcohol. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to do it, but I was going in with my hands up.
Yeah. Well, and
And
that seems really amazing to me, not to interrupt you, but, like, you would think that having that well, let's call it what it was. Remember when, they say the liquid courage, you have a couple of shots and you can do anything, and
yeah.
it's like, that seems for someone to say, "I felt more in control, I felt more like like that I think initially makes me kinda like my eyebrows raised like, "Oh, that's interesting," you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. You boy,
But I
you're
think
back in the game,
back in the game. But, like,
Yeah.
kinda to, like, what you were saying about that, like, so I think, like, not drinking was the right choice for me, and
Mhm.
I don't know where it was, like if I was an alcoholic or if I was just I didn't have the skills to cope with what I was going through at the time and I was using that to cope, like, I don't know what it was, but I didn't like the direction it was going.
Yeah.
But I do, as much as I think that that drinking the way I was drinking isn't good at all, or like drinking before stand up did not make me funnier, did not make me better. It just numbed it more. So
Yeah.
the pain of the anxiety wasn't there as much.
Or maybe you
I
thought you
do
were funnier.
think I did well. I couldn't remember, so I just said I was. But I do think that it helped a lot because it did shut me off, and which is I don't know if this is a good thing to say, but for me anyway, I feel like I wonder if I would have gone for some of the things if I didn't have the liquid courage. But I think
Yeah.
I just used it to a point where, okay, now you're not doing it to get over the hump. Now you're using it as a crutch. And
Right.
but I do think it did have some benefit because it did give me courage. But
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
I know I can do it now, and I've have enough life experience, and now I have the tools to deal with it. Now I don't need the alcohol.
Hmm. Yeah. Bowdridge, what's your story here? Why are you
So,
back in the game? What's that all about?
let me tell you what back in the game means to me. So, so hearing both of you speak, it's kind of like describing exactly what I felt when I first heard this theme, this topic, because there's so many people that are bouncing back from something, right? So
Mm.
we all have something that we're running from or running to, and I think this kind of just compels us to stop and think for a minute that we're not alone and that we could speak about it and support each other, right? And really help each other out, build it out like a community. Um, like thinking about the fact that we want to reach the people that we want to reach, whether you're bouncing back from incarceration, some sort of mental health crisis or addiction, whatever it may be, there's you can look around and see people who are seemingly doing well, right? Who probably have those same concerns or that same
Yeah.
history. So like we're all normal people.
Yeah.
Everybody's flawed. There's no perfect people.
Hmm.
Um, so it's to me it's the perfect starting point for this conversation because like they talk about that hero's journey that people have to take.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're doing really good now or you're at a low, like everybody has to go through that low to build back up and really get that success. And
Mm.
so I think we're going to capture people here at all different times. So some people might be, they haven't hit a low. Maybe they're still riding a high that's been a 10-year stint, and that's great. But, that hero's journey comes along that really tests your character. Um, you're going to want to hear about it from some other people. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're going to be able to spotlight for some folks.
So if you think about this moving forward, and what I think our collective goals are, and even our individual goals are, why each one of us signed on, so to speak, and said, "Hey, with how busy my life is, because I can't think of three more diverse people right now in this conversation. You know what I mean? Just with backgrounds, with what we're doing, what we're experiencing, but still having that connectivity or that one thing that kind of maybe more than one thing that binds us, that connects us. But like
Sure.
if you say, hey, a year from now, 6 months from now, two episodes from now, whatever that is, what are like the top three things you'd like depend and I like how you put it, like everybody's at a different stage in their journey. Everybody's, going to be coming at it from a different angle. And obviously that's what we want to I think that's what we want to be able to focus on because it's going to make everybody comfortable in their own skin. But um what, like I don't know, I'm three, it's always the number for me. Like what are the three things you want, you know, somebody to come away from listening to this.
Sure. So number one, I wanted to bring hope to some people, right? So I think if someone's sitting in a cell somewhere and they're like, contemplating the end of the sentence and just starting that transition home, that's a nerve-wracking time. They should have some hope that they're going to get out and do success, right? Um, they should see some like, not literal mentors, but like people in the community who've walked that path and
Mm-hmm.
are able to kind of, instead of just walking off and being successful, turn around and reach back for the guy behind them.
Yeah.
So to see like that mentorship take place and just really to see people do good, right? Success for people in general should be like, I mean, if you're in a business, if you're in a job and the focus isn't like lifting people up, like to me, I don't know, I'd have to figure out something else to do. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think keeping that as like the guide stones here is to just lift people up, whatever stage of the journey they're on, and maybe open some doors.
Yeah. I like that. What
Yeah.
about you, Dolan?
So three things that I hope people take away. I don't know if I can like make it
Maybe
into a
three's
nice
not
clean
enough.
three. Maybe it's not enough. But I know that like when I've gone through hard times and it wasn't like people talking about this kind of stuff. But I even have a clip of me talking with Chris DiStefano, who's a comedian if you don't know him. And
Hmm.
he had a podcast called The History Hyenas, and I was in a place in my life where I thought I was happy, but I wasn't. And again, with I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know what was wrong, what was going on, or the root of everything. And I felt very alone. And this was kind of at the beginning of the downfall of everything, like right at the beginning of COVID. Um, and that podcast, when I felt like I had nobody, I felt like in my head, I would call it, I was going to hang out with my friends, like whether I was like mowing the lawn or I was doing dishes, like they had a new episode out. I knew I was going to get to hang out with my friends, but in here, like obviously I wasn't going to go see them or anything. But a lot of things that they talked about on there, like, it kinda just made me feel like it was kinda like my security blanket, and I don't know if I could break it down into 3 things because that's my main thing is not only do I want them to feel like that even though it's a podcast, we're not necessarily interacting, it's kinda still like that they feel like that someone's out there, that they have that, like, hopefully, kind of like a security blanket because when you do hit that alone feeling or like if you've ever felt like really hopeless, just hopeless, and you're like, "Oh, this is what that feels like. I thought I was hopeless before, but wow."
Yeah.
Like just being able to I hope it can be either a security blanket, a life raft or something because for about 2 years I felt like I was out in the middle of the ocean mentally and just treading water,
Oh,
hope just even hoping an enemy ship would pick me up. So, like
yeah. No.
and and I hope that at least this can, like, maybe help educate, but also, like, I've never been a person to go to meetings. Like, I've been
Hmm.
to 2 AA meetings before in my life, court ordered, but, they I went and I think it works for some people, and I think it's good just for me and my reason for not drinking, it's not for me, but I know it does help other people and
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that helps me is interacting with people I click with that I know and building a community like that. So I hope people come away with some kind of security community and, "Oh, this is like shopping for diamond, the 3 Cs."
That's just amazing because the more I sit here and listen to both of you, um, it's funny. I just had the thought go through my head, geez, and of course I don't want this, but I could say, geez, even if we end up with no listeners, I'm gonna get something out of this. Like
Yeah,
I am going to like, holy moly, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then,
it's just us hanging out with our friends.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Little do people know we've already done 3 hours. We've only been recording the past 20 minutes now,
Yeah,
but
yeah, right. But, and it's funny, and I made reference in our conversation before this, and that, the time when Josh and I had, some of our interactions, and we'll learn more about, how we connected, all the 3 of us, and what our backgrounds are and stuff, I'm sure. Um, well, because it's kind of important for this anyways, but, you know even, I know you guys, but there's still I just love the fact that I'm still learning more about both of you. And yeah, Dolan, we've crossed paths, and we've been familiar with each other, and obviously Bowdridge and I are a lot, have been a lot more tighter, and that's, occupational or just whatever that is. But I mean, I'm still even Bowdridge, I'm still learning more about him, and I think it's the again showing up and doing each episode. I'm wondering if I'm actually going to be excited about the guest, or just be excited about learning more about you guys. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's all right. And I think that the guests are just gonna add to, this recipe for success. And I've heard keywords coming out of your mouth, and both of you guys, success and motivation, or support, whatever that is. And it's funny because, I don't want to get stuck in cliches, but as I always talk out of both sides of my mouth, so I hate cliches. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, you can't win if you don't try, it's like, but like success, I love a lot of these keywords. They just mean so many different things to different people. And success, what is, as I get older, success was my resume, and being able to regurgitate it on the spot, and be able to, well, let's just call it what it is, brag about what I'm doing in my life, whether I was bumping into somebody from college or something like that. And I'm the director of blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I just want to go to bed every night and just be happy, and not, what I mean? And I mean, don't get me wrong. You want to make a living. And so, as long as something goes into my bank account every 2 weeks, we're good there. But like, I don't need the status. I don't need and it's funny to interact with people still that's their focus.
I
Like
feel the
the,
same way.
yeah, right. The awards, or the, the certificate, whether, whatever that is. And
Or
it's
how
just,
famous someone is that you're friends
yeah.
with. Like, I don't even think about that anymore. And I was thinking the other day, I ran into someone from high school. They're like, they wanted to go through everything. And I was just like, "Abe."
No, isn't that amazing? I mean, it's fine though.
Yeah.
It's fine to catch up, or what do they call that? Go down memory lane, or whatever that is. Hey, remember that time? Yeah, blah, blah. But I mean, for someone to just still be living in that
Yeah.
time, like,
Because I used to
dude,
want that so bad. But when I
right?
got it, I was like, now I'm like, that's the most important thing. And I think having a kid helped with that too.
Oh,
It put
tremendously.
everything into perspective. Now it's
Mhm.
just like, if it doesn't have to do with her, it's
Yeah.
the first time I felt that, and I also thought something was wrong. Sorry to
No, you're
cut,
speaking my language, so yeah.
but when I felt something was wrong because I like you said, I wanted all that kind of stuff, or I was like, I mean, I got into show business because I'm insecure and I have a look at me thing that I have to do all the time. That's why I
Yeah,
do stand up. Um, But the first time, I know you're in front of sold out arenas all the time, Todd, but it doesn't happen to me very often. And
well,
it
they're not
was
necessarily coming to see me.
I
I
know,
just
but
happen to.
it was the same kind of thing with me. They were there to see Seether and Stained and Mistress Carrie and friggin' Mike Shue. Like, I didn't, but when I got up there, I was like, what's it gonna
Yeah,
feel like to be in front of a sold
yeah.
out DCU center? I was like, I'm either gonna be shit my pants, or
Mhm.
I'm gonna be super psyched, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna have adrenaline. And something happened that I didn't account for was nothing happened. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't pumped. I was just like, well, this is what I'm doing right now. And I was like, what was
Yeah.
that?
Right, yeah. No, yeah, yeah, what is that coming from? Is that coming from, like you're just finally in this spot where you're comfortable, or
Yeah.
are you taking it for granted? Are you not excited? Do you and it's funny because it happens to me as well, and I'll go home, and I'll just, like, get into bed, and dum 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 dum, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, like, that was just game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and, like, you're just hanging out, eating a bag of chips in your house, watching,
Same thing
some,
happened to me.
you know."
Game 7 of after the St. Louis Blues one. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I was just in the locker room.
Right.
After I
Yeah.
was like, I should be crying right now, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, and so it's just, what that and it's fine. Listen, if someone wants that, if someone wants that resume that details everything, if someone wants that notoriety, if someone wants to be on that placard on the side of the bus, running down, Mass Ave, 20 times a day and wants the expo, then go for it. If that's what makes you tick, and that's what I'm trying to say with that
but they won't get
definition
there
of
if that's why they're
success.
doing it.
Well,
There's
right.
no
Yeah, but
longevity in that.
well, yeah, but you know what I mean? I think, for me, it's just, I mean, my kids are my best friends.
Yep.
I'm more concerned with like what adventure can I call it an adventure. Like, what are we doing this weekend? Of
Yeah.
course my daughter is just like, Dad, you're so weird. I'm just like, let's just pick a direction and go and we'll find where we are when we get there. This is so cool. I don't know. But I mean, I think this being I don't know if the word is, sometimes I like to use big words or try to use big words. Um, I think of what was the guy's name in dodgeball, and he's like, are you reading the dictionary? He's like, yeah, I'd like to get a mental workout too, But I don't know if but this podcast will be the catalyst for people to kind of hopefully feel that it's okay to I don't have to have all the bells and whistles. I can just be me and be happy in my skin and be comfortable. And then, I mean, I know I asked you guys about your three things, but the other thing I just really want to quickly say, and I love it when I say, oh, I just want to quickly say, like Todd doesn't say
Yeah.
anything quickly. But, I'm going to use the word diversity, right? But I'm not going to use it in a sense that we probably are. I think the diversity of where we all come from and what our backgrounds are, but how we utilize this. I had a good thought and then I lost it, but I guess I mean I just got motivated from listening to both of you. It's going to it's going to have a different message for every person that listens,
Yeah.
but it's still going to be the same mechanism. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's what's great too, is that because in my world where I work in corrections and the prison system and not to speak for Bowdridge, but that's where we met, as far as, our work and all that. It's always interesting and I respect them. I respect them. And especially when they say, hey, stop trying to relate to me. You don't know where I'm from. You don't know what I've been through. And it's like, well, I kind of do, but maybe
Yeah.
not from the point of view inside a cell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever that is. So I think that's the other thing too, is we all have our own battles, but we have to feel comfortable that we all understand and can relate to each person's journey. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah. Because
So,
I literally just had this. So I do a live stream, and like have a chat on there, and I interact, and I got a lot of regular followers and stuff, and a lot of them like bring up stuff from their life because you get to know some of these people. And I was telling, I was given like some advice with someone that was going through something in their marriage, and like I don't know exactly what's going on behind closed doors with him and his wife or soon to be ex-wife or whatever, but from my experience I do kind of know what is going on in there
hmm yeah,
without being in there. So I feel like that's
sure.
kind of like what you're saying. Like, you know what's going on. Like, you're not trying to say, like, I know how you feel, but I know what's
Right.
going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, it's just amazing. And the other part of it too is, sorry to hog the conversation. I'm going to throw this over to Bowdridge, but it's just he shows me up all the time, so I have to jump in when I can. You know what I mean? I got to get now, but you know that's the other thing too is in my world. I don't want to say unfortunately, but people, the majority of people know me as what I do, singing, before hockey games. But then when you have a conversation with somebody and they're like, so I think it's funny, not to get off the track, but I think it's funny. I think most people think I'm in a closet at the garden and like I just come out, sing the anthem, and then go back in and,
You're like a
I got a
teacher.
contract
It's like when
and
you
all.
see a teacher at the store, you're like, what are you doing? Shouldn't you
Yeah.
be at
Aren't you
school?
supposed to? Yeah. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, I remember it just happened like what a couple weeks ago. I went up and visited a friend. He was in one of the suites, and his there was a business owner there, and I was talking to him about what he and I said, well, I'm the director of workforce development with the department, with the executive office public, and he's like, what? Wait a minute. And it's just like, you watch these people's faces, and I'm like, yeah, I work in the state prison system and help guys get jobs. I'm like, oh, yeah, but you're the Bruins thing. I'm like, yeah, well,
How
that's,
long do you
that's,
think the national anthem is?
but I think too is you're right, and I mean, I think that motivates, my clients. Like I've always said, I never call them, inmates or whatever. They're my clients. I think, when I walk in and, because I'm constantly engaged and, checking in out, it's like a case manager type style thing. And they'll every so often be like, oh, I saw you last night on TV. And I'm like, yeah, and here I am. So where's the resume? Let's get to work. And they're just like, well, oh, okay, okay. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, it's an interesting, so that's what I'm really really, really jacked about with this and what the potential is of this and what I am most confident w- will be the effect of this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So back in the game, baby.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking forward to to seeing who the guests will get to come on and what
Hmm.
message they'll bring. Right. So
Yeah.
as many experiences that we can come up with, there's going to be somebody to come out of left field that's going to probably blow us all away.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
We're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
geez, we didn't even think of that. So and
Hmm.
then it's just going to get deeper from there. So I'm excited for it. I think we're like we've been saying, we're going to get a lot out of it first. And even if
Yeah.
that's it, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm always saying, like, to myself, like, when I'm doing stand-up or I'm doing my live stream or whatever, I'm like, "I'll do this by myself. I don't need it." Like,
yeah.
the
But
fact that there's cameras and lights and stuff is a bonus. I'll do this for me.
Yeah.
right, and right there too, I think the three of us, I mean, you got what? The guy who works in the prison system and sings, for a hockey team. You got the guy who's a comedian, he's done and that. And then you got this guy over here, Bowdridge, who I don't know what his story is. He's all over the place. He's just a man of mystery. But no, I mean, just I love all the different angles we're coming at this from. But that resounding message I hope that people get is that we want to, we're never gonna, I mean, I'm confident, I want to speak for you guys, but like I've always said, I'm never gonna patronize somebody and say I know how you feel. Even if I do, maybe if I have had that exact experience, I will never do that. You know what I mean? It's all about listening and understanding where they came from. But I think, again, we're gonna find so much um common ground between all of our diverse backgrounds that
Yeah.
it's gonna be more comfortable. And I can appreciate when someone snaps at me and says, you don't know what I've gone through, because that's been that trauma, that's been that that life of, well, what got them to be one of my clients. I mean, so,
Yeah.
insert charge here, insert life experience here, like, and we know that it can run the gamut. So, um, again, and talking about it and meeting more and more people who have, and the more different we are, the more same we are. Like me and my cliches coming out again, and um, I just look forward to, and yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to the guests, but I'm looking forward to learning about you guys too. You know what I mean? And
Same.
and I think we're gonna have a lot to bring to this.
I'm looking forward to the guests, the message, the locations that we can film at.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a business owner that came from nothing and built himself up and wants to reach back and help people out. Maybe we film an episode in his business, right? Maybe
Hmm.
maybe we film an episode in a correctional institution somewhere where people are learning a skill that they're dying to put to work, right? So maybe we get them on both ends. Um, Maybe we interview some people who are in positions that can really impact a lot of people,
Yeah.
and is- and hear from them, from their story. and maybe we culminate a few people to follow that path too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
super excited.
And like Todd, you were saying at the beginning of this, where you were like, even just like in the past like hour or so, or even when we were chatting beforehand, that like just like the more we talk, the more like I learn about more about the two of you. But what I'm really excited about is not only getting to learn about you and other people, but I feel like the more, and I've found this on like now doing this a lot, like I have a microphone in front of my face all day. I'm like, do I ever talk to anybody like just normal? Like, or does it always gotta be with this on?
Yeah.
Um, but I find that the more and more I do it and the more different guests, like I start learning. I kind of call it like accessing files I didn't know I had, like learning
Mhm.
more about myself. And then when I do that, I feel like I learn even more about other people. And
Yeah.
it's just like it keeps snowballing, keeps being, it's almost like going to the gym mentally for me is doing this kind of stuff. And I feel like everything else I do, it's like it's either like hockey related, it's comedy related, I'm being over the top, or like I'm talking to this person or that. Like I'm always I, like I'm trying to stay up in the air, but I feel like this kind of where I'm kind of like I can sit down and like, all right, I can open the doors a little bit more, and I feel like I'm kind of excited to do that because I don't know where it will grow or how it has no way but to be organic and just I think it'll take on a life of itself, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you it was almost as if like you guys were like scripted between when Josh was talking about just the idea of like being in a correctional institution or being in a person's business and all that. And to me, that's exposure, right? So that's exposure that's highlighting a different environment. And then you're talking about, um, how accessing files you never knew you had, right? And then you
Mhm.
even made reference like going to the gym. And I remember I'll go back to when, I thought I was the man, like, working out, a big football player, back in high school and then into college. And I remember getting involved in a boxing program, and the guy running it was just like, "Oh, you're a big strong guy. You can lift all this weight." And then I remember one of the days we were going to go to the pool, and he was running me through, and then I'm just like, "You want me to swim? Like, dude, I lift like 500 pounds. Like, I don't need to go swimming. Like, what's the matter?" And that notion of using muscles you never utilized before, you never used, and that's what swimming did to me. And I think that's another thing. So if we progress to like the next part of that, that's another, we talk about how excited we are for this and where it can go and all that, but that's where, you know, getting all of us, whether, just the three of us or our guest or us in reaction to our guests, utilizing skills, emotions, whatever that is that we've just never used before or really ever focused on or ever, like you said, never even knew existed, like accessing the files. And I love that. I
Hey,
love the I don't know if that's analogy, alliteration, whatever it is. I love that, because that's how I seem to communicate with people, you know what I mean? And that's, you know being, getting people out of their comfort zone, and you don't necessarily have to get out of your comfort zone by talking. Sometimes you can get out of your comfort zone by listening. We all have the ability to, if I'm listening to talk radio and, that the political show is getting a little too, a little too deep and a little too, conspiracy theory. Okay, it's time to go over to sports, and then now that's getting silly, and then we have the ability to change the channel, but to get
Yes.
somebody to sit there and listen to us and be like, no, I'm gonna work through this, because when you start to bring up those emotions, just us talking, just it could just be the three of us talking about our experiences, that's going to start to trigger things in people listening. And my hope is that they work through that and stick with it, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a
Yeah.
conversation that it's a lot easier to just, I don't want to sound negative, but it's a lot easier to put your head in the sand or look the other way, or, not address it. Even all the environments that we work in, especially mine, sometimes it's really easy to just kind of just kind of coast,
Yeah.
look at your watch. Have I made it to 80% of my retirement yet? Oh, I'm there. Okay, good. Check out. But, at the end of the day, what have I really accomplished? But,
I'm
you
always
know,
much more comfortable when I make myself really uncomfortable.
and that's it right there. That I love that. I love the way you put that. That's really what it is. And whether it's a guest that we've got on, or like I said, people listening, getting people out of their comfort zone. And, because, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, don't, after we get off this and all that, don't text me for like a day, because I already know that I'm gonna be reflecting on this. And my brain is just, I'm not even gonna be able to come up with like a coherent anything for like a good day, because already my brain is like scrambled eggs, because there's just a lot of information, a lot of potential, and a lot of oh, it's all positive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But um, you know, a podcast to me was, I didn't even know what that meant, and I can remember it was 2006. It was pre-pandemic. It was like 2016, and or whatever. And podcasts were like all the things that were starting to come around. I'm like, a pod what? And now, whenever I'm in the car, I do a lot of traveling. I'm always trying to find something. But again, being able to like, most of them are, I don't want to say um superficial, but you have a food podcast, you have a this podcast, you have a this podcast, but what are those podcasts? What are those shows where people are like touching, like touching the cut, like
Yeah.
putting salt on it, or whatever that is, making you uncomfortable. It's like, because if we can get people thinking about what they're going through and addressing it, you know what I mean? Whatever that is, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be, and again, that's where the respect comes from, because your issues might be like, I might be sitting here going, really? That's it? You have a problem with that? Like, I wish I had that. But that's going to be the wonderful thing about that,
Yeah.
is that this is somebody's whole world, and it's keeping them from functioning. And by being able to offer a different point of view, we might be able to help them
Uh,
get through that,
yeah, and
and ourselves.
I would love to do, because I mean, I'm a mental mess. I got so many things that I'm still working on getting rid of too. Like, I got bad OCD, and I blame that on hockey because I'm a very superstitious person, and the
Mhm.
Bruins. Okay, I'll blame it a little bit on the Bruins because there was this playoff span that I was thinking I was controlling them.
No,
Their wins were lining up with the shirts I was wearing, and
okay. All right.
but it, like, that kind of thinking where I would get into more of, like, focusing on, like, I don't know, it can spiral pretty fast, easy, but I'm a perfect example of why
Leave
to
it.
get
Oh,
out of your comfort zone, because I do radio stand up. Like, I had a very bad stutter, like, as a child, and I
wow.
had wicked bad social anxiety, and now I talk all day for a living in all
Mm,
different, like, format, and it was just the more I did it, like, I would get physically ill, like, even in high school, if I had to, like, order food for myself at a restaurant, I would feel myself, like, I would get dizzy, and, like, I would have to hold on to the table to order, and now I'm joking around with these people that people are like, they can't believe that I'm meeting or that I
yeah.
know, and I'm just like, "Whatever." It's
And imagine the person that's listening to that goes, "Wow, I can relate to that," or whatever that is.
Yeah.
You
Because, like,
normalize
then
it.
I would hear Robin Williams
Yeah.
say like, you look at Robin Williams, think he's, like, the happiest guy, and then
There you go.
look what happened to him, but he said some things in different interviews where I was like, "Oh my god, he's exactly like me. He's got the same social anxiety," and then I found
Mhm.
out, oh, that's why I wanted to do stand-up, and that I'm kinda like him mentally, is because at, like, a cookout, you don't have control over the situation. But
Yeah.
when you have the mic and you're in front of the crowd, now you have control. That's why sometimes people like that gravitate towards something like that, because that's the only way we can communicate.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
now I can't shut up. It doesn't matter if there's a mic or not, but
Yeah, im
but
imposter syndrome's a real thing, right?
oh, it
You
is.
think
Yeah.
when you think, "What am I doing here?" Everybody must see it. Everybody must see right through it.
Yeah. But, No, guys,
Uh,
I'm excited to do this, and I think when people start seeing it and hearing about it, I think a lot of people will be excited about it. And is there anything else you guys want to leave with? I know we don't have a guest this episode. I feel like this is it's kind of like a pilot episode, letting you guys meet us and hear us talking, and just kind of tease about what's coming up, and it'll unfold in front of all of our eyes. I mean,
yeah,
I've been a part of, breaking the ice, and started that with Andrew Raycroft, and it turned into a WAAF type podcast, and now it's in another rebranding stage and Chirping Zebras. And I've started a few other podcasts with other people, and it just never ended up like I can kind of tell when I got a good one or not a good one. And now I only put my time and energy into things that I know it's got the right recipe, and this definitely does. So I'm
yeah.
excited about this, and it's got that new podcast smell, and I like it.
No,
I think
I'm glad you said that, and thanks for that, because I respect both of you for many reasons, but I respect your experience and all that, and I know that, well, we all are. I mean, we just talked about it. The three of us with our lives, where we don't have the time to mess around with something
No.
that isn't worth anything, so to speak. When I say worth, I mean, that's worth doing. That's worth. But, I think, I always kind of relate the food too, and I think this is the appetizer. I think, we're going to learn more about each other, and people tuning in are going to learn more about us, and I would like to think they want to know more about us. I think, I did a lot of the talking, so now everybody's going to be like, "What's this guy Bowdridge all about?" Because he's like the silent assassin there, But I think that's going to be the allure, and as we continue on, and the guests are only going to add to that, and
yes,
I hope that, people listening might even have suggestions or recommendations for guests or different topics they want to hear about, or things like that. Because as much as we're focusing in on, back in the game and what that means, I think it's wide open for us too. You
Yeah.
know,
yeah.
And maybe
Dude,
we do an
that's
episode where it's just singing the entire time. We just sing the entire podcast.
well, I don't know.
so I like to leave it with the appeal to anybody who wants to come on the show, right?
Like that.
If you think you have a story to tell, if you think you have value to add to other people, we'd love to have you. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to learn from you, and we'd love to help push that story out to everybody else to help them too.
All right. Well,
Love that. I love that.
I love it. So for myself, Josh, and Todd and the two Joshes, two Joshes, one Todd is what it should have been called, but it's back in the game. And you'll be seeing a lot more of us.